Hello, YouTubers. This is NTSP. I just think I'm gonna start. I want to start like a life lessons, like a series on life lessons. It's me growing up and different things. I think sharing your life lessons that you learn with people is very good, so that people can avoid the mistakes that you've made. And avoid the errors that you've made in life. Um, I like to just get into it. Start with lesson number one. Lesson number one is about car buying. You ever buying from private sellers? You ever bought a car from a private seller? Or have you ever gone to test drive a car from a private seller? And when you get there, the car may not be what you expected it to be, or maybe it didn't measure up to the pictures and the hype, and you really was in wanted the car, and you get there and you see it, and it's just not what you thought it was. I've had that happen to me. On my first car buying experience through Craigslist. I know Craigslist is probably one of the worst places you want to go buy a car. But Craigslist was my first place, and it was a Lincoln. I'll never forget it. It was a Lincoln Continental, and in the pictures, it looked beautiful. I mean, it looked awesome. And I was like, man, I'm pumped up. The price is right. Price looks good. I think this may be the car for me. So I get there and I drive by the car, and I'm like, that's a Lincoln. But is that the Lincoln that I saw in the picture? And I didn't know about it. So I called the seller and I said, where's the car located at? And he said, well, it's out in such and such store, or whatnot. And sure enough, it was the Lincoln that I saw. All I gotta say is the Lincoln that I saw in the picture looked beautiful. I mean, it was a pearl white color, pristine looking on the inside. Well, when I got there, you ever heard the term polished turd? Yes, it was a polished turd. It looked beautiful on the outside, but once you got there, beautiful in the pictures, but once you got there, you saw the turd. You saw the broken side mirrors. The inside of the car smelled like 1,000 hairy, sweaty guys had been in there jumping all around. It smelled like a jungle gym, and it smelled like a pet shop. The motor looked like someone had went mud 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 bogging in it or something like that. It's just horrible. Just horrible. It had ants crawling all over it. It had water leaks in the trunk. I mean, you name it, it had it. And when I put my OBD reader on it, it read about 13 or 14 codes. And the guy immediately, he didn't realize that I had an OBD reader. He immediately jumped in and said, well, I fixed those codes and they've already been fixed and blah, blah. And I was thinking to myself, if those codes had been fixed, they would not be showing on my OBD reader. And see, that's why I want to give you guys a life lesson. Now, that isn't my first mess up with when it comes to cars, or not mess up, but my first bad experience. But my first truly bad experience was with a 2007 Toyota Camry. Oh my goodness. Worst purchase ever. And I got swindled. The hood was rusted out on the thing, but the rest of the car looked immaculate, beautiful. The center console looked like a dog had chewed it. I'm just be honest. It looked like a dog had chewed it. But the leather inside of the car looked awesome. And I was like, I gotta get this car. If y'all give it to me at such and such price. I should have known when I saw the smile on the used car salesman's face. I should have known that I was getting scammed. I didn't know at the time. I had no idea at the time. that I was buying the worst year-made Camry ever. I'm serious. Dead serious. It was the worst year-made Camry. The 2007 Toyota Camry is the worst year-made Toyota Camry, besides the 2008 and 2009 Camrys. It tops all of them, and I did not know that. I, to this day, now have all kinds of issues and problems with that car. But that's enough for my rant. Let's get on with the lesson. Alright guys, this is involving when you're buying a car. Even I can apply this to dealerships as well. We're going to apply this to dealerships. When you're buying a car on, let's say, Car Gurus or on Marketplace or Craigslist, wherever you're buying this car from, you want to apply these lessons. These are about, I think it's about, how many questions? It's 9 specific questions. With these 9 specific questions, especially the first 5, I believe, first 5 or 6 questions, if you get a no answer, run away. Do not even entertain the thought of buying that car, no matter how much it looks, no matter how much the price looks. If whoever answers these questions back to you no, or they can't give you a definite answer, look elsewhere. Find another car. Keep it moving. All right, so lesson number 1. Question number 1. When I say the word blank, that means you fill in the blank with a website or whatever, or you fill in the blank with a time period, and I'll let you know. Okay, first question is blank states that this car has been listed over blank ago. Is there any wiggle room in regards to the price? And in quotation marks, it says, in quotes, it says, state any damage you may have noticed in the pictures or car details. Now you're going to follow this up after the question. Because let's say, for instance, we start out the question. Marketplace states that this car has been listed over a week ago. Is there any wiggle room in regards to the price? And then what you want to do after you ask that question, you want to put down, okay, well, I saw damage on the fender and I saw damage on the driver's seat, and I noticed that damage in the pictures. And just leave it at that. Put a period after that and leave it at that. Don't add any more details or anything. If they say no, keep it moving. Because that person will not be open to negotiating a price with you, a common sense price, because damages like that, like repairing a car seat, can cost upwards of $200 to $300, if not more, for just a car seat, especially if it's leather. That's expensive. That becomes expensive. So you don't want to deal with someone who upfront already don't want to negotiate with you. And if they don't answer that question, make sure you keep asking them till they actually do answer the question, or either just flat out leave. Okay. All right. So let's go on to question number 2. I think I think I've gone over that pretty good. All right. Question number 2. These are important questions. This is an important question. Does this car have any known electrical problems? Interior accessory problems? That's like the what do you call that? The instrument panel, or any type of electronic issue that may be malfunctioning. Maybe like I know some of these new cars have touch screen or whatever. Any type of accessory problems, you want to ask them this. So when you go and view the car, if they do have those problems, you can say, well, you told me on such and such that you didn't have these problems. I'm detecting that there are problems with the interior accessory problem. See, this gives you the upper hand. This gives you the upper hand. All right, and the next one is, does it have any known engine problems? Same thing applies. OBD codes. You want to bring an OBD code reader with you. And I highly suggest, and I stand by, the OBD reader called Blue Driver. You can get it off of Amazon for very cheap. Let's go on Amazon. Let's go see what Amazon says. If it'll come up. If it'll come up. You're gonna see. Let's type it in. Because I haven't looked up how much Blue Driver costs lately. We'll see how much it costs. Give it some time to come up, but we'll continue on. All right, so the next one is, does it have any current recalls? Now you're able to figure out if the car has any current recalls because there are websites out there that will, once you get the VIN number from the person, you can look up and see if there are any current recalls. And it's free. It's completely free. It's through the government. It's totally free. All you got to do is type in VIN number, recalls, free. And websites will pop up everywhere. All right, so now we see it got the Blue Driver scan tool at $99. That's how much it has always been. But back to the question. Does it have any steering, wheel or hub, fuel system, suspension, or computer problems? You want to make sure whether or not it has those issues, because those are very expensive components on the car. The last thing you want to get is a car that has suspension issues. Having like struts replaced, and I've done it myself personally, even on my own. When I bought struts for the front and back of my car, it cost me over $700. And that's just to do it myself. On the vehicle that I had, it cost me over $700. So you can only imagine how much that would cost if you have to take it to a maintenance facility to have it done. It would cost you in the thousands. It would cost you in the thousands. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the main screen. All right, so you want to ask that question, all of those problems, see if all of those problems are known. And if they say no, okay, that will lead to another question later on that I will talk about. I will bring up question number 2 later on. Okay, now question number 3. Keep question number 2 in your mind. Known problems. You want to that's what you're going to hang them up on. It's known problems. And if they lie about it, then you can come back and tell them and call them out on it. Okay, so question number 3. Has this car ever been in water damage, salt water, exposure to salt water, climate, road salt exposure, and hail damage? These are very specific. I'm not beating around the bush with these. You want to ask these questions. I'll go through them each one by one. You don't want a car with water damage. Why? Because you will have all kinds of electrical issues, all kinds of electrical problems. You don't want a car that has been exposed to salt water or a saltwater climate. Places like Florida, a lot of their cars are exposed to saltwater damage. And when it floods, when those car lots get flooded and that salt water gets onto that metal, you will have rust corrosion. And when that happens, you don't want to have to repair a suspension issue that has rust on it. It will be a nightmare. And if you take it to a dealership or to a repair shop, they're going to charge you extra because of how much labor it will take. It is very labor intensive. Things break, things mess up, and you have to buy extra parts. Okay, next one. road salt exposure. If you get a car from up north or from out west where it's cold, northwest where it's really cold, up in like North Dakota, South Dakota, any of the Dakotas, or New York, Maine, Manhattan, wherever, anything up north, you do not want one of those cars. They are rust buckets. That's the word for it. Rust buckets. Stay far away from. If they say that car has been up north, have it thoroughly inspected and checked, and look at it. You really you only have to do that because all you gotta do is look underneath the hood and you'll see the rust. Okay. All right. Hail damage. Hail damage is like the worst of the worst of the worst. You lose out in every way, shape, and form with the title, with the paying for the car, and loss of value of the car. You lose out all kinds of ways with hail damage. You can look on other YouTube channels and they'll explain to you the risk of buying a hail damaged car. No matter how much you love this car, it could be the most beautiful car ever. Those cars, the hail damaged cars, are legit polished turds. Hands down, legit polished turds. You lose in every way with those type of cars. All right, we're going to continue on. Keep this going. All right, let's go to question number 4. When you ask them this question, this is the most important question of all the questions. Okay? You remember when I said about keeping question number 2 in mind? That's this question right here. That will expose them if they have lied about any problems. Here's the question number 4. At my expense, and say it like this, at my expense, may I have a mechanic shop of my choice in your area perform a used car inspection, compression check, coolant pressure check, AC pressure check, and engine diagnostic check. Okay, I'm going to go through this step by step. Reason why I say at my expense, because sometimes people take it the wrong way when you say, "Can I have a used car inspection done? Are you okay with me doing it?" Some people don't like it. Some people are like, "Well, are you gonna pay for it?" They'll get an attitude. That actually happened to me. That actually happened to me. So each one of these you always, even if the car is new, you always get a used car inspection done. That's the least you can do. But when you have a used car, I highly suggest getting a compression check, because if that car has well over 100,000 miles, you're coming up on the point to where you're gonna have, if it's an older car, you're gonna have to change out the engine belt, or if it's a newer car, you're coming up close to the time where you're gonna have the timing belt. You're gonna have to change out the timing chain, because the car is getting old. Once it's over 100,000, I say 150,000, you're going to want to look into getting that timing chain changed. And if it hasn't been done, that's going to be expensive. That's going to be expensive. And if your timing chain falls apart while you're driving it after you've bought it, your whole engine is toast, basically. Your whole engine is toast. So that's things you have to calculate into. Okay? So what a compression check does, it checks your cylinders and your pistons to just check and see if your piston rings are good. It checks to see if you're meeting compression, which can lead to misfires and other issues. It checks for several things, and also if you may have a leak somewhere, it helps you check for that. And when you have a compression check and it's off or bad, then you have a leak down check done. That's what helps you find the actual problem, is the leak down check. Okay, but I don't have that on there. But the coolant pressure check is the next one. When a person has a coolant system, some people when they have a coolant that they put into their cars, some people don't put the right type coolant. And coolant is naturally corrosive. Yes, it's sweet tasting, but it's naturally corrosive. And if you put the wrong type in your car, it can corrode the metal in your car fast. It may take a period of time, but it will corrode your car very fast. Okay? So the next thing is the AC pressure check. The air conditioner pressure check. The reason why I say air conditioner pressure check is because the worst thing you can do is live in the South and your AC goes out. You just bought a used car and your AC goes out, but they told you the AC is working perfectly fine. The best way to know whether it's working perfectly fine is to do an AC pressure check. And if it's a leak and they can find that leak, you want them to find that leak because nothing's more expensive. Well, yeah, there is more expensive things on the car, but AC components are very expensive to repair and replace and to check. They're very expensive. I would rather have a pressure check that cost me $150, have that done, versus having to replace several AC components because of a leak. And that will cost you thousands. So it's best to pay out for that check. Okay, now engine diagnosis check. That's just nothing but an OBD reader they put onto the car. And some shops have fancy OBD readers that they put onto the car. So once they put that onto the car, then they check for codes, and if several codes come up that maybe your OBD reader didn't catch, they can detect those codes, and then they can figure out and tell you what the problems is. And see what's the good thing about this used car inspection is after it's all done, they will tally up the cost of everything that's wrong with the car and give you a price on how much it will cost to repair that car. And once you get that price and once you see all those issues and problems, and if there was anything hidden that they didn't admit to in the beginning in question number 2, you can use that against them. This is your firepower. This is your negotiating key. This allows you to negotiate the price down so that way you can repair the car as necessary. Okay? All right, so let's keep it going. We're gonna probably run through these here pretty quick. These are your common sense ones. These are the ones I would hope that most people would know to ask for. Disregard this if you don't know to ask for these, because this is why I'm doing this as a life lesson. Because I had to learn. Everybody has to start somewhere. Question number 5. May I have the VIN? The vehicle identification number is very important. It helps you find recalls. It helps you determine whether the car was stolen. Nothing's worse than buying a car off a dealer's lot and finding out that it was stolen. And then the police repossess your car and you can't do nothing about it. You can't get your money back. And the bank still wants their money for the car. you know, so get that VIN number from the private person or from the dealer. And if they're not willing to give it to you, then let them go. Walk away. That's one thing you got to learn in this in this negotiating. You got to learn to walk away when the price is not right. You got to walk away. All right, so get that VIN number. All right. Number 6. Is this car a private or dealership car? Reason why I'm asking that, of course, some people are like, well, that's just common sense, Ben. Wouldn't you know that this is the a dealership or a private? No, because now dealerships are selling as private sellers on the side. They'll take a trade in, and I know this for a fact. This was one of my I was looking at a Buick LaCrosse or Buick Lucerne or something like that, and I asked the guy, is this a private car or dealership car? And he said, well, I work for a dealership, but I'm trying to sell it for a lady who goes to my church and she wants me to sell it for him and get a good price on it. Basically, he was a dealer trying to sell a car as a private salesman, as a private seller. That's not right in so many ways. That's like you're still dealing with the dealership. So that's why you want to ask this question. And if they say, and if you really don't want to deal with the dealership and you want to deal with a private seller, ask them this question. And if they're not the true, if they're not the actual person that own that car, don't buy it from them. Because they're going to mark that price up so high because they're going to get a portion of that money. And they're going to really railroad you. That's all to it. They're going to railroad you. And you're going to have all kinds of issues. When I went to go view that car had so many codes on it, major codes. And he tried to brush it over like it was nothing serious. And he knew they were serious. See, the problem is he didn't think I was prepared. He didn't think I was ready. But I was ready. I was ready. Okay. So ask that question, is this car a private or dealership car? And if you truly only want to deal with private sellers, and if they say they worked for a dealership and they bought it as a trade-in, offer trade-in from someone and all this stuff, leave. Just leave. Don't even deal with them. Just leave. Because they're just gonna railroad you and take all your money. It's not worth it. Okay, question number 7. Do you have any pictures of the engine compartment? This is very key. People, dealerships, private sellers will always show the inside of their vehicles. Now, some of them need to learn how to clean their cars. I'm just be honest. Some of them need to learn how to clean their car. The most important part of a car is the engine and transmission. If they won't show you a picture of the engine and transmission after you've asked them, keep it moving. Keep it moving. Don't even waste time with them. I had one guy around my area, and I asked him that simple question. He said, "Oh yeah, I'll go out to my garage and take pictures of the engine." I waited 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and I was like, "Nah, I ain't dealing with this. I ain't got time for this." If he was truly serious, if he really wanted to sell this car, he would have given me those pictures. That car to this day is that car to this day is still on Facebook Marketplace. Not sold. Because he really don't want to sell that car. Legitimately. If he wanted to sell that car, he would have given the pictures. He would have been straight up with me and he would have been like, "Okay, here are the pictures. When can you show up?" Nothing happened. So I've moved on. Left it. Alright. So question number 8. This is important too. Is the engine a 4, 6, or 8 cylinder? When you want a car that is gas dependable, or if you want a car that has speed, or if you want a car that can be a family car, you don't want a car with an engine that is too small for the body of the car. Okay, here's what I mean. If you get a F-150 and they say, "Well, we're gonna get you we got an inline 4 engine," and what that means is you got 4 cylinders that are inline on in the engine. You that makes no sense. Why would you put, even if you got a big block 4 cylinder, why in the world would you put a 4 cylinder in an F-150? That size of a truck. Trucks are meant for towing things. 4 cylinders are not meant for towing heavy objects and pulling heavy items. That means you will never be able to pull or tow hardly anything with that engine because the engine will tear up and the transmission will overwork itself. So that's a perfect scenario, a perfect example, I believe, of it. The reason why you want to ask or know what type of engine is in that car. All right. So let's look at question number 9. And I think that will be the last question. And it kind of falls in line with what I just said about transmission. What type of transmission is in the car? This is very important. Now, I know there are different types of transmissions out there, but the three I'm talking about will be manual, automatic, and CVT. Manual, you can't really go wrong with manual transmissions. They are gas savers. They help you with, if you know how to use a manual. That's what I'm saying. If you know how to use a manual, they're very dependable. Very dependable. Yeah, you got to change out the clutch every now and then and stuff like that. That's normal. Once you get used to it, it's normal. Um, Now some cars can be a pain in the butt to change out the clutch in, but you got automatic transmissions. Now some of these automatic transmissions are closed in transmission, or what do they call them? No maintenance, like a no maintenance type transmissions or something. They're closed off or something. You can only they try and make it to where the service center is the only ones able to change the fluid inside of them, which is a lie. All you got to do is get you one of those fluid extractors, suck that fluid out, put the same amount in that you took out. That's it. End of discussion. Same thing with these CVT transmissions. You can do the same thing. Get you a fluid extractor, suck that fluid out, put the same amount that you took out back into it. Okay, so the next transmission is CVT transmissions. Run, run, run away from CVT transmissions. Unless you love torture and pain and agony. Unless you love having to pay out money, thousands of dollars for fun, get one. Get you a CVT transmission and pay out a lot of money for fun. But if you want to save your money, if you value your purchases and your investments, do not get a car with a CVT transmission. I have personal experience with CVT transmissions. They are a natural pain in the hoo-hoo. So avoid those type transmissions at all costs. And most cars that have them are your Nissans. Majority all Nissans have CVT transmissions. Now I know some other cars are starting to adapt other forms of the CVT transmission. They don't call it necessarily a CVT transmission, but it's still a CVT transmission. It's almost like how can I describe it? It's almost like they're trying to deceive you into thinking that it's something that it's not, but it is what they're claiming that it's not. It is a lot of deception. But anyways, that's that's basically it. So it's 9 questions, guys. I know this was pretty long. It's 30 minutes. And I hope this was not a waste of your time because these are very important questions. If you don't like to be duped, use these questions and let them know you're a serious buyer. And that's all I got to say, guys. I hope you guys liked the video. I know it wasn't much to see except for my phone screen, but that's pretty much it. Signing out. NTSP. Over.